One of the centerpieces of any fitness company's line is their power racks. And one of the centerpieces of our gyms usually is a power rack as well. It's an important purchase. You want to make sure you get it right, and there's a lot of them out there, right? Everybody makes them. So when I drove to Body Solid today in Forest Park, Illinois, I definitely wanted to take some time to look at their SPR1000. This is their main flagship rack that they make. It's a light commercial rack, but it's really meant for your home. And there's some really cool things about it, and that's what I want to show you today on GymCrafter. Welcome back to the GymCrafter YouTube channel, everybody. My name is Tim. I'm the head gym nerd here at GymCrafter.com, the website that I built to help ordinary folks like you and I build home and garage gyms that we absolutely love. And part of having an absolutely awesome garage gym is having a great power rack. As you guys know, I'm a huge fan of barbell training. The centerpiece of any gym, in my opinion, should be a good power rack. Now, I know different people have different needs, and some people don't want to do barbell training, but I really believe that barbell training, when done correctly, is the single most effective way to age well, to build strength, to build every good characteristic in your life barbell training contributes to. And part of doing barbell training is having a power rack. And that's why when you look at most fitness companies out there, everybody's making a rack these days, right? Or 5. Seems like. So it's hard to pick, right? Like, which one do you pick? This one's $8,000, this one's $800. How do you pick between them? And I think that a couple of things that people miss out on is, in fact, when I was at Home Gym Con last year, as you walk from booth to booth, it seemed like everybody had a power rack, right? It was a competition to see who could cram the most stuff in their power rack, which one looked the most impressive. And that's one of the things you'll see when you're looking at online marketing is when you're looking at these pictures online, they all kind of look the same. So the more stuff you can stick on them, the better. And when you get up close and look at some details, you'll notice that they aren't all the same. There's a reason why one is $8,000 and one is $800. The other thing that you can't really see and you don't really think about a lot is the company that builds the racks. And as I've kind of been in the fitness industry for quite a while now, and I look at companies that come and go, you know, there's lots of companies that make a big splash, they have a huge marketing budget, you see them all over Instagram and Facebook, and then 2 years later they're gone. There's a reason for that. Those guys are just spending all their money on marketing, none of their money on customer service, none of their money on build quality. And the nice thing about Body Solid is this company's been around for 35 plus years. They have a lifetime warranty on almost everything they sell, and that's true of this rack. There's a lifetime warranty on this rack. You buy this rack, 20 years from now you break something on it, and they're going to replace it for you. And the cool thing is they are going to be around. They've been around forever. And one of the great kind of testaments to that is my friend Ashton down at Freedom Fitness in North Carolina or South Carolina, one of those two, one of the Carolinas, is if you ask him, and he deals exclusively in pre-owned gear, if you ask him what to buy in just about any category, if Body Solid makes it, then what happens is he's going to say, buy the Body Solid. And it's crazy. If you ask him, you know, the best companies to buy pre-owned gear from, Body Solid is always at the top of that list. And for somebody who sells, you know, pre-owned fitness gear, that says a lot to me, is that, you know, to know that this stuff is going to last. Not only is it going to last, you know, it's, if you ever bought something on Facebook Marketplace, you're like, is this broken? Is this not going to work? And I know that if I'm looking at something on Facebook Marketplace and it's Body Solid, I know it's going to be pretty good, right? And the other thing that I know is if I do have an issue, I can call. I'm actually looking on the other side of the camera at their customer service department. There's actual people talking to actual customers, and you know, they help you out. They spend time helping you out. They spend time helping you build stuff. And if you have a problem, you're going to be able to call right here in Forest Park, Illinois, and get a hold of somebody. So keep in mind, as we look at the rack, as good as the rack is, you're buying two things when you buy any product. You're buying the product, you're buying the company that stands behind it. And I can tell you these days, there's a ton of fly-by-night people out there. They're not all that way. There's some really good companies out there, and you've seen me review gear from them, but Body Solid, you want to put them in that good company category, and that's one of the reasons you want to look at this. The nice thing too is that having a lifetime warranty, this is what they call a semi-commercial grade piece of gear. And so you can actually put this in a commercial gym and use it and know that the members aren't going to beat it up, it's not going to break, and that's the quality level you're bringing home. And that's a nice thing to have, is to have that confidence that this stuff is going to last like that, that it's got that build quality to it. But being commercial grade a lot of times comes with a commercial grade price tag, and we all know the company I'm talking about, right? Is oh, we're commercial grade stuff that you buy for your home, and then you look and you're like, how is your rack $12,000? And there's a reason for that. The cool thing about Body Solid is they make this commercial grade stuff, but it's really kind of a mid-tier price company. It's not going to be near as much as some of these other companies who call their stuff commercial grade. It's not the cheapest stuff either, because you don't, look guys, you don't want the cheapest stuff for your gym, but it's a really good quality at a really good price. And let me show you, let me finish blabbering at you about the company and about the build quality and actually show you what I'm talking about as we take a tour of this rack. So let's start with the basics of this rack. This is a 3x3 11 gauge steel rack, real nice black powder coat. You can have any color of this rack you want as long as it's black. Which I actually like. Black goes with everything, so why wouldn't you want black? It is 5/8 inch holes. They are 2-inch hole spacing through the rack, and it is 1-inch hole spacing down here. It's called west side hole spacing. Allows you to dial in your bench press better a little bit. Get your safeties and your J-hooks in a more dialed in spot. And one of the things I like on the side is you've got holes all the way down. A lot of the racks, what you'll see is to save money, they'll put holes like every 12 inches. And here you've got much closer spacing. So as you add accessories, and we're gonna talk about accessories in a second, they've got a ton of accessories for this thing. You can actually put more on here. One thing that's a little weird to me is that the holes on the side are different than the front, and I would like to see them kind of the same size and then offset, so you've got a hole in the front and then a hole in the side and then a hole in the front and a hole in the side. That's a better way to design the whole pattern on a rack, so that's something I do wish was different about these uprights. But I do like the fact that there's a lot, I've had an awful lot of racks or tested an awful lot of racks where this hole spacing on the side is too big, where you really just can't get your accessories where you want them. So I do like that a lot. On the front, they've got laser cut on the measurements here. So a lot of companies will do stickers, or they'll do like laser engraving, and the laser engraving you can't really see. With these, you can actually tell where you are height-wise, so get everything lined up is really good. One of my favorite things about this is actually down below. So let's go down here and take a look at this. All right, so I like this thing so much that I got my big bald head down here on the floor to show you. And this is gonna address a problem that a lot of people have in garages, which is that most people's racks, they end up walking around the garage. Even on a rubber floor, most racks are just 4 feet. And what happens is, as you rack and unrack weights, they kind of move and shimmy over time. And there's 2 ways to handle that. Number one, and this rack has this, there's these little tabs down here where you can bolt things to the floor. Honestly, of all the people I've helped build home and garage gyms, I can count on one hand the number of times people actually bolted things to the floor. It's hard to do, it's inconvenient, you can't move things around, you can't change things down the road, and it's just not something most people are gonna do. Commercial gyms do for insurance reasons and because they don't wanna move the racks all the time, but for home and garage gyms, you're typically not gonna do that. So the other solution for racks is to build what's called a flat foot rack. And what a flat foot rack is instead of having 4 posts that it sits on, it's got a rail that runs front to back. And that's what this has. Now, I had a Titan X3 rack for a while that was flat foot, but that thing still tended to walk a little bit. And the reason why is the feet weren't long enough. One of the things the engineers here at Body Solid have done really well on this is the feet actually come out a foot in the front and a foot in the back. And this is actually a 36-inch deep rack. So you have a fairly deep footprint on this for the legs and for the feet. And what that's gonna do is that's gonna keep this thing very stable. It's gonna keep this thing very still and stationary, especially if you use rubber floor. You always wanna use rubber floor in your gym. And if you have rubber flooring combined with this design, this thing's probably not gonna move around a whole lot, and I really, really like that. Another thing that I like too is when you're bolting down your rack, one of the things that you're doing that for is so that the rack doesn't tip. I do a ton of suspension trainer work, and I do it leaning off the front of the rack. So if you were to attach a suspension trainer to the front, to the pull-up bar on your rack and lean out front, if you don't have weight stored on this thing, and we'll show you the optional weight storage in a second, but if you're not using that optional weight storage, what happens is that rack can start to tip forward, and I've actually had that happen before. And with this foot that comes out, instead of buying, you'll see a lot of companies, what they do is they sell these giant feet that stick up off the ground. You know, they're this tall off the ground and they're this deep, specifically to address that. With this, it's built into it. You don't need to buy an additional accessory piece. It's just going to work really well in a home where you're not bolting it down. I know I've kind of made a big deal out of that, but when you're looking at power racks, it's these little things that set them apart, and it's something that you may not notice at first when you're looking. One pushback on this that I can see people having is that they're like, hey, I can't push this all the way up against the back wall because the feet are going to get in the way. And what I would tell you is you're never going to want to push your rack all the way up against the back wall anyway, because if you do, you're taking your back uprights out of play. If you want to use the back uprights to lift, your weight plates are going to be on the side of those, and those are going to protrude against the back wall anyway. So you're going to have the rack out from the wall anyway, and it's nice to be able to have some usable metal back there to keep it stable while you're doing that. So overall, this is one of my favorite features of this rack. You don't see this on hardly anybody else's, like I said, unless you're buying accessory pieces. And I've even seen lately companies selling accessory legs for the front and the back. So when we're talking about price comparisons, this already comes in at, I think, like 150 bucks less than a similar Rep SPR1000, for example. But if you're buying those feet for the front and back of that rack, all of a sudden you're significantly less expensive here and just as good, if not better, build quality. So one of my favorite things in the rack. Let's get me up off the floor so I can show you some more stuff. One of the things that I see a lot of companies doing these days, and I actually really like it because not everybody did this for a long time. When I bought my first rack, I bought these weight storage horns to go on the rack itself. And what you don't realize is when you put them on the rack itself, you, again, like I said before when I was down there on the floor, you take away the use of this back post. So you gotta be careful squatting in here because your plates are bumping into each other. So one of the smart things a lot of companies have done is offer you this rear weight storage. I would definitely recommend this if you're gonna buy a rack like this. This is a worthwhile investment. They offer a really nice weight storage thing back here. It also gives you room for either a spotter back here or something like these utility shelves. This is another thing that I really like about racks, and not everybody's doing this, so it's nice that Body Solid's doing that, is the more stuff, and I've had back problems my whole life, and the more stuff you can get up off the floor at eye level or chest level, the better off you are. So if you've got a place to put your kettlebells, if you got a place to put your, your sandbag or whatever other heavy implement you've got back here, that's great. If you're lifting heavy and you need room for a spotter, this is a great place for a spotter to stand. And then this also gives more stability to the rack front to back. But I'll tell you, if you add the weight storage and the weights, then you're going to actually not have a rack that moves around at all. Now, one thing that I noticed on this that I don't see anybody else doing, which I think is a great engineering idea, is these weight horns are actually angled up a little bit. What I've noticed is most weight horns are going to stick straight out, and then as you kind of rack and unrack your weights, they kind of inch off and inch off. And I've had weights fall off these things all the time when they're straight. And just this little bit of angle is going to keep these weight plates from falling off the horns. It's a small touch, but I tell you, when you have something, when you have a 45-pound plate fall off the horn and then make a hole in your wall, you appreciate things like this, because what you have to do otherwise is you have to put collars on all of these. So then you get spring collars and you got to take those on and off. So that's kind of a pain. Speaking of being a pain, another reason I recommend on a rack is getting weight storage back here like this is the less work you have to do to work out. It sounds weird, but the less work you have to do to work out, the more you're going to work out. And I love having the plates right here where you can pull them off and put them right on your bar. It's really handy to have them here. I made a video recently, a little tip for you, and they did it opposite here, which most people do. You always want to put your heaviest weights right here because that's easiest. Put your lightest weights down low so that anything you are bending over, like I said, can you tell I've had a bad back my whole life? Anything you're bending down low to pick up is the lighter weight. So I like to put your 10-pound weights down here, put your 45s here where it's going to be most stable on your torso, and then put your 25s up here. And then, as I've said before, where do the 15s and 35s go? In the garbage. Anyway, so let's move on to a couple more things about this rack, and then we'll look at some of the accessories that come with it. As far as what it actually comes with itself, you're going to get the rack itself, you're going to get a standard straight pull-up bar. You're going to get those long feet, and you're going to get some standard safeties. Now, these aren't going to be the pin pipe safeties. This is another thing that I really like about this rack, is most racks are going to come with what are called pin pipe safeties. It's the least expensive safety a company can give you, and it's these pins that slide straight through with these little spinny pipes that go on them. They clang, they're loud. These actually have really nice, stable, they're not flip down safeties, but they do install like that, and they lock in, and man, they are actually really nice. I wish that they had, one thing I do wish was different about these safeties is I wish they had some UHMW on the top. They're just bare metal on the top. So if I got these, I would probably put something along the top to keep the barbell from being damaged if it rested on the safeties. But overall, because it's a really nice safety, I would be very comfortable doing rack pulls from these. I would be very comfortable doing, you kind of do restricted depth pressing where you kind of come down to the safety and then go back up. There's an actual name for that, just it's very early in the morning right now and my brain's not working 100%. But the safeties are really good, and then you're going to get some basic J-hooks. One thing I do which is different on these J-hooks, I would probably, one of the things I would immediately upgrade on this is I would buy what are called sandwich J-hooks. The nice thing about the 3x3 with the 5/8" holes, you're going to have a ton of accessories you can buy. Body Solid's got a lot, but you can get accessories from just about everybody. If there's an accessory made for a rack, odds are they make it for a 5/8" hole rack. The thing that I wish was different about these is there's no UHMW on this front lip right here. And with a barbell, you never want metal on metal contact. So I would either wrap these in some type of a tape or something, or just get sandwich J-hooks and upgrade those right away. So it's cool that these come with but this is something that I would definitely upgrade right away. Okay, so speaking of safeties, these are the safeties that come with it, like I was talking about. I do, like I said, wish there was some UHMW on here, but these are very, very sturdy. I wouldn't have any issues using them for my standard safeties at all if you don't want to spend any additional money. Now, something that I upgrade on every single rack that I've ever had, and I will upgrade on every single rack that I ever do have, is I really think safety straps are a superior safety mechanism. So not only will these hold, the guys here were telling me they've dropped 1,500 pounds on these and they held up just fine. In fact, they said the little hole started to tweak on the rack itself before the straps ever had an issue. So really safe way to do things. But the reason I like these is you can set them so that you're safe, but because there's a little bit of give front to back, as you're bench pressing, for example, if you happen to touch the safety, you're not going to feel that. When you use a hard safety like this and you touch the safety, you feel it. So the thing I like about these is you can set them so that you're safe and they don't interfere with your lifting. I really, really like safety straps. It's a worthwhile upgrade and investment. They typically don't come with any power rack, but like I said, the first three things I upgrade on all my power racks are the J-cups. I always go with sandwich J-cups, the safety straps, and then I always invest in a multi-grip pull-up bar, which we'll look up top here in a second. There's some really cool pull-up options on this that you can get from Body Solid, but those are the things that I always upgrade. And in fact, if it was me and I was building power racks, for me, those would be the standard accessories. I know that raises the price, but for me, I don't think you've got a really good power rack unless you have those three upgrades. But like I said, let's go up top and we'll look at those pull-up options. When I was a kid, we used to have to take this thing called the President's Fitness Test, and that involved sit-ups and push-ups, basic human movements, but one of the things that nobody could ever do was pull-ups. Pull-ups are one of those things that if you can do a good number of pull-ups, you know that you're strong. And one of the cool things about having a power rack is it gives you a functional place in your gym to do pull-ups. So this rack's gonna come with a standard straight pull-up bar. I do like that the powder coat's pretty grippy. It is a good wide diameter. You see a lot of companies go cheap on these and they're real thin and they're not comfortable to do pull-ups on. Like I said, I would almost always immediately upgrade. I love this, it actually goes up a little bit higher. So for me, I'm 6'6". I can do pull-ups on this and not have to bend my knees too much, which I absolutely love. You've got your wide neutral, your narrow neutral, normal, supinated and pronated, and then you've got an angled grip as well. This is ideal. This is the perfect kind of multi-grip. I see a lot of companies trying to fiddle with this and do fancy things. This is one of those episodes where just basic is better. A couple other cool things, if you guys are American Ninja fans, you've got these boulder pull-ups. I can't do these. I would bet most people can't either, but if you want to work on your grip strength, there's a lot of people out there training grip strength. Doing pull-ups on these is for sure going to do that, but for me, it would just be an exercise infused. I'd probably throw these through a wall if I had them, so I probably wouldn't buy them for my rack, but if you're working on your grip, that's a great way to go. And actually something unique that I've never seen before is, speaking of doing stuff that's fancy and fun looking, is these guys back here. This, number one, this pull-up attachment has some knurled metal, which is, in my opinion, all pull-up bars should be knurled. This one should be knurled, this one should be knurled. That's really the best way to do it. Grip is really important when you're trying to pull your body weight up. I weigh 220 pounds right now, so the more grip I can have, the better, and I really love a knurled grip. But these are cool because you've got your kind of a narrow grip, neutral, you've got an angled out here on the side, you've got an angled so that you can do like a wide grip, but you've also got these climbing grips on here. And I know climbing and bouldering is a huge sport these days. These are much easier than these guys, but this is a really cool, another way to train grip strength, another way to make your training fun. And I don't know, if I was buying something like this, I do love these and I always upgrade to this, but this is one of the few, you see a lot of these up there with these globe pull-up things, and I just can't do those. Those are pretty tough. But this is something that I actually think I would use because I use the neutral the most. I use wide grip a lot, but I would probably use these. I go bouldering with my niece. She's much better at it than I am, but I'm more of a V0, V1 guy. If you guys have ever been bouldering, she's much more advanced than that, but this might help me keep up with her. And it also just makes things a little bit more fun. So I really like this pull-up attachment, and this is a great example of all of the different attachments that you'll find that Body Solid makes for this rack. And like I said, because it's a 5/8 inch 3x3 rack, you can get all kinds of attachments, even if it's not from Body Solid. So up top, I think this is pretty solid, and some really cool options for you back here. So as far as other accessories go, these monolift arms are pretty sweet. They just come out with these. I'm not going to make a huge deal out of their suite of accessories. I know Body Solid's very proud of them. They do make a lot of things that go with this rack, and they're expanding it all the time. They make some very cool stuff. But the thing that I would point out about their accessories is just like the rack itself, long warranty, good company to stand behind it. I know a lot of people go on Amazon to buy their accessories and their cable accessories and things like that. But if you want a company that's going to stand behind those, that they're going to last for a long time, you know that they're well built, then I would definitely take a look at the Body Solid accessories. That's one nice thing. One thing that I wish they did a little bit differently is I would love to see some UHMW lining the back of these attachments so that it doesn't wear on the powder coat. This is such a nice job at powder coating, but when you have metal on metal from these attachments, it is going to wear it off. And one way that you can ensure that doesn't happen is to line these with UHMW. So I would like to see that as an improvement. So if you're looking at accessories and you want that, then you can look at some other companies will make some accessories like that. But they do make a full suite. There's a ton of them. I don't want to go over them all in this video. But that is the SPR1000 rack. It's like I said, it's a good solid rack. I think the big thing for me is that you're buying the company just as much or more as you're buying the rack. Let's be honest, there's lots of ways to get a 3x3 5/8 inch hole rack. I pointed out some unique features on this, the weight horns, the feet, things like that. But for me, the big one is the company that you're buying it from, the build quality you can be sure of. The company's been around for 35 years, which you cannot say for almost any other company in the fitness industry. So for me, that's the big thing about this rack. And as usual, if you have questions or comments, please leave those down below. I'm happy to answer those for you. Also, there are some affiliate links down below. That is how I pay for my trips like this. That's how I pay for myself to get new stuff in the garage gym to look at. That's how I bring this stuff to you, because this is my full-time job. So if you do decide to buy one of these, you can use those links. That would be awesome. And outside of that, until the next review, I'm Tim with GymCrafter.